Srila Prabhupada ki. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Jigaguru Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namchar Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Prem Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Guru Bhakta ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Krishna Giri Govardhan ki. Vrindavan ki. Maturadam ki. Durgadam ki. Navadidam ki. Jagannapuridam ki. Jamunamai ki. Gangamai ki. Kosimara ki. Bhakti Devi ki. Sambheda Bhakti Vrinda ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Say Sri Radha Madhava ki. Shri Panchatattva ki. Shri Prahlad Nrsimha ki. Gopremanande. All glories at the summit of the devotees. All glories at the summit of the devotees. All glories at the summit of the devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. There's a devotee who's very, very sick, and we need a doctor. Is there a doctor in the house? We have plan B. You're a doctor? No. Is there a doctor sitting here? Braj Vilas is looking for somebody. Braj Vilas ki jai. Mission accomplished. Thank you, Prabhu. No, we're done. We've moved on. We've moved on. We've got a doctor, we've got an ambulance, everything's happening. Braj Vilas ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Swadamo Bhagate Dhamriganadi Bisaha Kalanasa Deshamesha Purana Kona Dodita Narayana namaskritya naram chaivam nānṛtaṁ devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. I'm not in the best of health. I'm not contagious, don't worry. So I'm going to need some help. I need some prayers that I have the wherewithal to get through class. Also, it's like one of those, how many things are wrong in this picture? I'm speaking in the wake of such saintly, powerful devotees have been giving class. So I must admit to feeling a bit like a rabbit amongst many elephants. So I was thinking last night, and Prabhupada says a bird flies in the sky according to its ability. So I'm a little small bird, and I'll try to say something, but with your prayers, that may I say something of value for you. May Krishna help me do that. So we are on verse 10, chapter 2, 5th chapter, verse 10. Nānṛtaṁ, tava, touch, cāpi, yathā, tvam, prabravīṣi, bhoḥ, avij, param, matta, etāvat, tvam, yato, nānṛtaṁ tava touch cāpi, tamam prabravīṣi bhoḥ, avij param matta, etāvat tvam yato nānṛtaṁ tava touch cāpi, tamam prabravīṣi bhoḥ, avij param matta, etāvat tvam yato Vaishnavis. Anṛtam, false. Tava, of yours. Tat, that. Cha, also. Cāpi, as you have stated. Yathā, in the matter of. Mam, of myself. Prabravīṣi, as you have described. Oh, my son. Avij, without knowing. Param, the supreme. matta, beyond myself, etāvat, all that you have spoken, tvam, yourself, yathā, for the reasons of he, certainly, may. Now, who's speaking? Do we know who's speaking this verse? Lord Brahma. And who is he speaking to? He's speaking to Narada Muni. Okay, we've got the time, we've got the place. Now we'll deal with content. This is Lord Brahma speaking. Whatever you have spoken about me is not false, because unless and until one is aware of the person of Godhead, who is the ultimate truth behind me, one is sure to be illusioned by observing my powerful activities. Also you say, whatever you have spoken about me is not false, because unless and until one is aware of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate truth beyond me, one is sure to be illusioned by observing my powerful activities. And Prabhupada's purport. The frog in the well logic illustrates a frog residing in an atmosphere and boundary of a well cannot imagine the length and breadth of the gigantic ocean. Such a frog, when informed of a gigantic length and breadth of the ocean, first of all, does not believe that there is such an ocean. And if someone assures him that factually there is such a thing, the frog then begins to measure it by imagination by means of pumping up its belly as far as possible, with the result that the tiny abdomen of the frog bursts and the poor frog dies without any experience of the actual ocean. Similarly, the material scientists, as a sidelight, Sariputta Prabhu, one of the founding members of Bhaktivedanta Institute, he told me he was with Prabhupada a number of times. Prabhupada would meet a biologist. Prabhupada would say, poor frogs, because they're always dissecting, you know. It immediately reduced their pride, you know. So Prabhupada's comparing them to a frog, you know, puffing up their chest and what have you know. We'll get into that in a minute. So, similarly, the materialists also want to challenge the inconceivable potency of the Lord by measuring him with their frog-like brains and scientific achievements. But at the end, they die unsuccessfully like the frog. Sometimes a materially powerful man is accepted as God or an incarnation of God without any knowledge of the factual God. Such a material assessment may be gradually extended, and the attempt may reach the highest limit of Brahmaji, who is the topmost living being within the universe, and has a duration of life unimaginable to the materialistic scientist. As we get information from the most authentic book of knowledge, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8:17, verse, Brahmaji's one day and night is calculated to be some hundreds of thousands of years on our planet. This long duration of life may not be believed by the frog in the well, but persons who have realization of the truth mentioned in Bhagavad Gita accept the existence of a great personality who creates the variegatedness of the complete universe. It is understood from revealed scripture that the Brahmaji of this universe is younger than all the other Brahmas, in charge of many, many universes beyond this, but none of them can be equal to the personality of Godhead. Naradaji is a liberated soul, and after his liberation, he was known as Narada. Otherwise, before his liberation, he was simply a son of a maidservant. The question may be asked, why Naradaji was not aware of the Supreme Lord, and why he misconceived Brahmaji to be the Supreme Lord, although factually he was not. A liberated soul is never bewildered by such a mistaken idea, so why did Naradaji ask all these questions just like an ordinary man with a poor fund of knowledge? There was such bewilderment in Arjuna also, although he is eternally associate of the Lord. Such bewilderment in Arjuna or Narada takes place by the will of the Lord, and so that other non-liberated persons may realize the real truth and knowledge of the Lord. The doubt arising in the mind of Narada about Brahmaji becoming all-powerful is a lesson for the frogs in the well, that they may not be bewildered in a misconceiving the identity of the personality of Godhead, even by comparison to a personality like Brahmaji. So what to speak of ordinary men who falsely pose themselves as God or as an incarnation of God? The Supreme Lord is always the Supreme, and as we have tried to explain many times in these purports, no living being, even up to the standard of Brahma, can claim to be one with the Lord. One should not be misled when people worship a great man as God after his death as a matter of hero worship. There were many kings like Lord Ramchandra, king of Ayodhya. But none of them are mentioned as God in the revealed scripture. To be a good king is not necessarily the qualification for being Lord Ram, but to be a great personality like Krishna is the qualification for being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we scrutinize the characters who took part in the Battle of Kurukshetra, we may find that Maharaj Yudhisthira was no less a pious king than Lord Ramchandra. And by character study, Maharaj Yudhisthira was a better moralist than Krishna. Lord Krishna asked Maharaj Yudhisthira to lie, but Maharaj Yudhisthira protested. But that does not mean that Maharaj Yudhisthira can be equal to Lord Ramchandra or Lord Krishna. The great authorities have estimated Maharaj Yudhisthira to be a pious man, but they have accepted Lord Ram or Krishna as the personality of Godhead. The Lord is therefore a different identity in all circumstances, and no idea of anthropomorphism can be applied to him. The Lord is always the Lord, and a common living being can never be equal to him. Om Gena Timarandasya Gyana Gena Salakaya Jakshusha Midatangena Tazarishi Guruve Namaha. So the question is, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, if we have a brain, what's going on? You've got some people that just row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. But intelligent people wonder, wait a minute, is it all going on by chance? There's a big guy at MIT, and I've fortunately forgotten his name. And, Prabhupada often, people would mention, oh, have you heard of Swami so-and-so? Or have you heard it? Prabhupada would say, who? He said it so many times. Oh, so-and-so, he's my guru. Is it? Who? And immediately they're reduced, to about this size. So luckily I've forgotten the guy's name. But his claim, somebody sent me the clip. He says, there's really only two choices. It's the either-or question. So either everything happened by chance or it happened by design. It's one or the other. And he said, but the idea that it happened by design is simply untenable to me. Why? Because if there's order, if there's pattern, if there's symmetry, if there's design, you know the word dovetail? We've heard the word dovetail. It actually comes from carpentry. And it means when you make like a window or something, and you've got the molding, and when you fit a piece to comport to the shape of that, that's called dovetailing. So that we have to, hello there, if we have to dovetail, we have to comport to the will of the Supreme, then I'm no longer the Supreme. My brother, English professor, you think I'm proud, you should meet him. It runs in the family. So I was a young student. I was reading Prabhupada's Gita. He came into my room, saw the Gita, said, oh, are you reading that? No, I've got it there as a book stop. Now, of course I'm reading it, He said, oh, I don't like that edition. I said, why? He said, it lays everything out too clearly. I swear, exactly. And I thought, geez, I sort of thought that was the purpose of the thing, But no, they like that. They like to dance in the margins. So we're talking about two ways of gaining knowledge. We're talking, one is the ascending process, aroha, and the other is descending process, avaroha. So the ascending process is the neti. It's not this. This was caused by this, not this, not this. Or Sankhya Yoga, this was caused by this was caused by this. And they're trying to... So it starts. They're trying to find out the cause of all causes by ascending knowledge. And we're going to spend a few minutes the fallacy of that, the futility of that, the uselessness of that. And then the alternative is descending knowledge, revelatory knowledge. And which of the two, the Prabhupada says if you tell a lie loud enough and long enough, people will believe it. And he tells a story. I'm off my notes, but we'll get back to them. There were 4 brothers. The father passed away, and he left all of the wealth to one good son. The other ones were layabouts and loafers. So he left it to the one good son. Now the other 3 sons, they were cut out of the inheritance. They weren't going to stand for that. They devised a scheme. And the scheme was... excuse me. The scheme was that the 3 other brothers positioned the one who inherited the money, the son who inherited the money, would walk from his house to bathe in the river every morning. And it was a little bit of a distance. So the 3 other brothers spaced themselves on the way to the river. So the one inherited the money, Prabhupada's story, is walking along, and he sees his brother, says, "Oh, Gopal, how are you?" And Gopal, as part of the ruse, says, "Oh, ghost, you died last night, now you're coming back as a ghost," and runs away. So the guy goes, "Well, I don't think I'm a ghost. What's wrong with him?" He goes a little further, he meets the second brother, Govinda. And Govinda says, "Oh, ghost, oh, you died last night, you've come back to haunt me, Vishnu," and runs off. So the guy's a little unnerved by this time. He's saying, "Well, geez, everything seems normal." He gets further to the river. The third brother says, "Ghost." The guy is so despondent and now convinced he's a ghost, he drowns himself in the river, and they inherit the money. So the point is, you hear a lie loud enough and long enough, you believe it. The average American under hypnosis, and I'm sure it's pretty much the same around the world, can remember over 357 commercial jingles. Yeah. Prabhupada said brainwashing. If the brain's dirty, shouldn't you wash it? What's rattling around? Coke is the real thing. It's not the real thing. It's fizzy sugar water that rots your teeth. Nike, just do it. That's what lemmings do. Lemmings jump off a cliff. They just do it. It should say, think before you do it. So, in so many ways, and all those things, there was a beer ad, very popular. We only go around once in life, get all the gusto you can. Well, what if we don't only go around once in life? So we are hearing messages all the time. And we're convinced that really everything is going on by chance. The Sanskrit, there's no word for chance. What is the word drista. Drista has the root darshan. It means to see. Darshan, the deities. So drista is the word in the Vedas they use for chance, and it means there's a cause, you just don't see it. So it's not that there's anything that doesn't everything has a cause, everything has a rhyme or reason. We just don't see it. And we're thinking, oh, it all happens by chance. Because we want it to be by chance, because it gives us that little bit of margin to cheat and to speculate. So, yeah, I am looking at my notes, but now I lost my glasses, which will come in handy. I was talking to a professor one time. This idea that everything can be understood by your senses by breaking it down into small. It's called reductionism. You break everything into small units. Ultimately, they have an atom smasher. Anyone know what they spent on the super hadron, whatever? Billions of dollars. First time they turned it on, it shorted out because a worker had left a loaf of bread in it. That's a true story. Your tax dollars at work. So, and what is the philosophy? The philosophy is we take an atom, we send it around as fast as possible, and they smash into each other. We try to take a snapshot and figure out what are the different particles. It's like if I wanted to figure out a gas combustion engine, and I took two cars, I ran them around a racetrack and smashed them into each other, and then I looked, well, I got a hubcap, I got a, door handle, and I mean, if you actually look at it, it's quite a primitive methodology. Let's say this. Suppose, who should I pick on? I'll pick on Badrinarayan, because he's my good friend and won't mind. So, Satya, I'm not going to take your wallet, don't worry. Can you stand up for a minute? It's a visual, you'll understand, don't worry. Just stand up. I'm a little worried because he's, no, keep standing. I'm a little worried because he's too smart for this. Suppose before I sat down, this young boy here, yeah, you, had glued me to this seat. Super dry, super glue. Hello to you. And so I want to shake hands with Badrinarayan. I'm limited. I'm glued to this seat. I can practice yoga. I can do calisthenics. I can maybe get an inch or two. Can I shake hands with Satya? We have no advocates. Everyone's a no advocate? No advocates? Ah! Don't spoil the story. It's a visual. I can't reach him. But what if Satya takes the initiative? Come on. I won't take your wallet. Then it becomes a very easy thing, So that's the simple principle of descending knowledge. It's revelatory. I remember asking one of my heroes, one of my great heroes, Sariputta Prabhu. I'll tell you some jokes about Sariputta later on. Just an amazing person. So, what was I going to say? No, I'll get there in a minute. Just the brain's fogged up. Wait a minute. We are making progress, right? We stand on the shoulders of giants. We've discovered so many things. We learn a little bit, then the next generation learns a little bit, next generation learns a little bit. In this way, we are pushing back the parameters of darkness. That's the whole pursuit of human knowledge. Every generation, we're learning more. And eventually, we've taken care of polio, although it's coming back at us. We've taken care of bubonic plague, although that's coming back at us. But, COVID they didn't see coming. But, we're making advancement. And you're locking us into the Stone Age, some primitive blind faith. I don't accept it. Okay? Do we crumple up and cry and go home? And think Bhagavatam belongs to our grandmother? Now, and someone can Google it, because I always forget it. In the 1930s, the idea is incrementally we're making advancement, and eventually we'll figure everything else, and we'll understand the secrets of the universe. We can control laws of chemistry, laws of mathematics, laws of physics. Of course, law means lawmaker, but they don't make that leap. The pole vaulting record in 1930 for the Olympics, somebody can Google it, but I think it was like 14 feet. Pole vaulting, the guy runs and boing, come back as a grasshopper. I don't know what their ultimate destination is, but so they've advanced. They got Acme race shoes, they've got fiberglass poles, they got all kinds of techniques. I think they're up to 18 feet. Let's give them 20 feet. Well, so that's incremental advancement, right? Right? So in the same way, every generation we're making advancement, and we'll just keep building, and eventually we'll get there. Let me ask you this. Does anyone think, although they've gone from 14 to 20 feet, anyone think anyone's ever going to be able to pole vault to the moon? Swami's lost his mind. No one's ever going to. So if we understand the gap
Prabhupada said they know more and more about less and less. He told Sariputta that. Prabhupada said they only know things of medium size and in the middle. Medium size and in the quantum mechanics, and when they get down to the particles, everything goes screwy. When they get into astrophysics, oh man. I mean, I want to talk about some other things, but just, so they can only measure middle things of medium size that are in the middle. But no one ever expects they'll be able to pole vault to the moon. So how do we think that by ascending incremental knowledge, we'll eventually understand the infinite? Man is the measure of all things. You accept that? It's the ethos of the age of Renaissance. Man is the measure of all things. Who's that guy? I just heard Prabhupada say on a tape, Tagore's brother was a painter and an avant-garde bon vivant, And he said, India's problem is they waste this life worrying about the future life. You follow? You spend all your time not doing sin and this and that. And when you die, you become fertilizer. You wasted this life and you're worrying about the next life. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you'll die. So, but if it's a profound arrogance, man is the measure of all things. Why? That we, within our little brain, somehow or other, this little brain, anyway, I'm thinking of the time. If you go onto Amazon, I went on Amazon trying to get some cough drops for my throat. And first they ask, are you a human? No, hey, it's a reasonable question. They got people out there with bots and you're doing everybody's trying to cheat at every possible moment. So they ask, am I a human? Because a machine, they're telling you. Well, I do want to say a couple cheaters. Remind me to get back to Amazon and are you a human? Okay, help me get back there. I'm sort of tipping my hand. There was, note past tense, there was a professor at the University of California, San Diego. It's one of the top hard science schools in the world. I'm sorry, but IIT trembles before the graduates of UCSD. We'll talk about that one later on. And one of their cutting-edge professors, his field is life extension. And if we eat right, pure oxygen, so many different things, we'll live, he was, notice the past tense, he was 65 years old, he had the heart rate of a 47-year-old, he had so many different things, right? He was going to live past 100, no problem. True story. He was out jogging the other day, and, it's a university campus, there were some young girls cavorting, playing volleyball. He's a lusty old man. He was looking at the girls, hit by a bus, finished. So much for life extension. There are so many factors that we have absolutely no control over. Christopher Columbus' aunt goes out exploring. We're going to end on this. I just wanted to give you a little, to shake this faith in ascending knowledge. It doesn't work. It's never going to take you to the truth. Therefore, what is the alternative? Brahma's saying here, it's revelatory. Let me tell you. Because if you look at the causes, Narada Muni's looking at everything, and it looks like it ultimately comes down to Brahma. It's a reasonable conclusion. What's gravity? Help me out here. Somebody said, I said I'm following in the footsteps of so many nice speakers before me, and I think it was Deva nānṛtaṁ said they know how, but they don't know why. Now, one of the basic forces of the universe is gravity. If there wasn't gravity, everything would implode on itself or spin out to nothing. So they accept gravity exists. Okay, what causes gravity? Well, gravity is caused by mass. Okay, more mass, more gravity. All right, fine, I'm with you. Well, why does mass have gravity? Well, because mass has gravity because it has gravitons. Okay, what's a graviton? A particle charged with gravity. Have I given you an answer? Have I given you an answer? Ask him about electricity, one of the most basic forces in the universe. You would think that they've nailed this one down, right? We'll give them that. What's electricity? Well, there's protons and there's electrons, negative and positive. And you go round. I've done it. I've done it with professors. You go round and around and around, and finally, what is a proton, and they break it down to quarks. They go down all their, an electrically charged particle. What? I was with a professor one time. Students are out here, we were going over this descending and ascending knowledge. And he said, everything can be broken down by our senses. Everything can be understood by our senses and our intellect. And he had his glasses like this. And he was looking for a quote in a book. If I could just find my glasses. Where are my glasses? He's going to show me that everything can be understood by sense perception. His glasses are 6 inches from his eye. It was actually quite blissful. The student started to snicker. I said, sir, I don't want to embarrass you, but, okay, So, Christopher Columbus Ant goes out exploring. That, in other words, that our band of experience, we can... There's so many things to say, and I want to move on to something else. I'll finish with Christopher Columbus Ant. Christopher Columbus Ant goes out exploring. Okay? Sent out by the queen. I think their ants have queens, right? So they send out the queen. It's sent out by the queen, and he's exploring, find new lands. He's crawling up my leg. He's crawling, I'm droning on. He's climbing in my ear, through my hair, through my sika. Yeah. And then he reports back to the queen. Vast lands, forests, caves, mountains, all uninhabited. He's climbing on me. I'm a person. But does that little ant have any idea that I'm a person? Has no idea whatsoever. So would we accept that that ant has an understanding of the universe? What's our position if we're honest about it? And they say, well, that's okay, but we're going to have supercomputers. And supercomputers, and they've got these ones that can do so many calculations so fast and this and this and that, right? And we're very impressed that eventually, we'll be able to live through computers. They'll replace all the parts, like a Mr. Potato Man. You can place the arm, the leg, and put everything back together again. And as far as the brain is just, Sariputta was with a professor, and the guy said, the problem is we have to change our language. Computers do not think. Computers do not feel. And they cannot define what feeling is. What causes feeling? What is the nature of feeling? You know what their answer is? Get it out of the dictionary. Instead of saying I'm feeling pain, you say my C fibers are firing. Is that sad? You bang your thumb with a hammer. Oh, I say, my C fibers are firing. It has nothing to do with your experience, your actual experience. So back to the computer, I'm trying to get this thing on Amazon, and it asks, are you a human? And it gives me, 4 pictures? Which one has a bicycle in it? I mean, a 4-year-old, a trained chimp, practically speaking, can answer that thing. But a computer is duped by that. It can't figure out, well, which one is it? So this idea that they're going to create supercomputers and bodies that'll live forever and just download everything onto a disk, you can live forever, make sure you have a backup copy. It is such profound arrogance. The great acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, the story of emperors, no clothing. Prabhupada called their bluff. This is our business. Our business, the people are being cheated, they're being lied to, they're being sold hollow promises, and we as Vaishnavas need to stand up. This is our business. So, now, what's the other side of the coin? Descending knowledge. Now, it mentioned that some of the other speakers were talking, what is the time? Whoa. Some of the other speakers were talking about, what did Brahma do? He climbed down he couldn't find the cause, he couldn't figure out where he'd come from. He said, he climbed down the lotus stem, became completely bewildered. Where was it? So what did he do? He performed tapasya. So for us to access descending knowledge, to have descending knowledge, to have revelatory knowledge, to have the infinite reveal itself to the finite, we have to perform some austerities. It's not a cheap thing. So what are some of those necessary austerities? That's what I want to focus on. What are some of the necessary austerities that we need to perform in order for transcendental knowledge, realization of the self and Krishna to awaken within our heart? And it is not blind faith and sentiment. They're the ones that believe amazing stories. Everything came from nothing. This same guy who said, if there's it either happened by chance or it happened by design, and for us to accept design is simply untenable for me. He said the universe, the existence is the original free lunch. Everything came from nothing. And they have the math that goes all the way back to the, so they say, back, and it's, you go to those rooms, it's got all the chalkboards with all the calculations, and they go all the way back to the milliseconds before the singularity and everything came out of a single point. There's so many points. Why that point? Why not this point or that point? Or why aren't universes popping all around? So many things, He said, give us one free miracle, we'll explain the rest. So my point is, they can't explain what launched the whole thing, which is sort of the initial point of it. So it's a bluff. It's a profound bluff. And the seamless, consistent logic is to understand that which is beyond my senses. I have to surrender. I have to become pure-hearted. I have to attract the mercy of the Supreme. It's revelatory. If I do an experiment, I'm serious about it. I have to use distilled water. There can't be any impurity, right? I have to, they even put, if you're doing an experiment, they put it on one of those things that takes care of any vibration. If a truck goes by, it has to be hermetically sealed. There's so many things you have to do. Any kind of contamination will spoil the experiment. Is that any blind faith involved in that? Or is that a logical statement? You guys on board with me for that? Yeah. So if we want to understand the absolute, if we want to attract the absolute, we have to be pure. Sadhana is not blind faith. It's the process of purifying the consciousness. We had a devotee. I was the temple president, Detroit, Michigan. 10 o'clock at night, a devotee knocked on, a man knocked on the door. Young man, 22 years old. I want to move into the temple. Middle of the night, I want to move into the temple. We were naive in those days. I said, you know what we do? You know anything about us? I said, we're vegetarian. We get up early in the morning. No boyfriend, girl. No problem, no problem, no problem. I'll move in. So we said, all right, give it a spin. And he said, the only thing I asked, the Detroit temple's on a 4-acre compound with a wall around it. He said, I just don't want to go outside the compound. I'm very shy. I mean, that should have set off a bell, but I thought, well, all right, whatever. Give it a try. Very nice person. After a couple months, he said, Badri, I was a householder then. He said, can I talk to you? I said, sure. Turns out he had been a drug dealer. Marijuana, hashish. And he'd gone to his friend's house. The police had surrounded it. So he ran to his other friend's house. Police had surrounded it. He figured they know him, they must know me. I can't go home. They're on my trail. I can't go to the bus station, I can't go to the airport, I can't cross the border, I'm stuck. Where am I going to hide? And he saw a sign, Hare Krishna Temple. He thought, well, they're never going to look in there. I'll lie low for a month or so, the heat's off, and I'll move out. But he got a taste. He liked devotional service. So when he confided in me, here's the story, I said, well, we can send you to India, but you can never come back to America. And, we should turn you in. We'll just, you just go in, you tell the truth, accept your karma, maybe you'll be in jail for a year and a half. Fine. clear the destiny, and then you can, because he wanted to preach. He was a nice person. Is a nice person. Initiated devotee now, by the way. So we went to the police. Anyone who's been to Detroit will understand. They had so many cases, they couldn't take him. They said, I'll take a report. Okay, we'll take a report. We'll get back to you, you know. So how's he living? What is our lifestyle? They wrote it all down in a report. 3 months later, we got a call to come to court. And you know, the judge is there, he's up on his desk, and there's so many people, he's got all these different files. And it's our turn, and he opens the file, he's reading the file, which is, you know, it's a report on the lifestyle. He says, wait a minute. He said, no boyfriend, girlfriend, no, you're vegetarian, you're not doing the TV, you're getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He said, stay there, it's worse than jail. It's a true story. It's a true story. He was a pious man. He was a good man. And he could understand that the devotee was trying to turn his life around. So he said, he actually said, you stay there for a year, I get a good report that, that you're okay, I'll expunge your record. And that's what happened. They just cleared his record, So, but we have to purify our heart. If you want to attract, Krishna says, param brahma, param dhamma, pavitram paramam brahman. If you want to approach the supreme pure, you have to be pure. Sadhana makes sense. It's not blind faith, or as Blake said, men in black muttering no. That you can't do this. When I first walked into the temple, first time I heard Prabhupada speak, I arrived late for the lecture. And I love sweets, thus diabetes. It's true. I love sweets, and especially among sweets, I love baked sweets. And of baked sweets, I love donuts. It's an Oprah moment. I've now said the renounced sannyasi. So I can't eat them now, so it'll kill me. But I walked in, and I heard Prabhupada say, and I was trying to become a devotee. So the last thing I gave up was baked things, because in those days, baked things all had eggs in them, and we can't eat eggs, so I had to give up baked things. And I walked in late, and me being in the mode of ignorance and passion, in Prabhupada's sweet Bengali accent, I heard Prabhupada say, we have so many donuts. I thought he said donuts. I did. I thought, fantastic. I said, Krishna consciousness and donuts? I'm in the right place. I've found my people, I was really feeling happy. And then I listened, and Prabhupada said, every process has yama and niyama, has do's and do nots. I thought, jeez, But it's true. It's not blind faith. It's not sentiment. It's not fear and guilt. It's logical. Now, we only have a few minutes, and I noted a couple other, and my strength is ebbing fast. Just a few. So we have to practice sadhana. And another thing about sadhana, with a radio, you got to turn the dial, right? Static, and when you turn the dial, then you get the clear signal. So we've got to tune our heart by sadhana. Garbage in, garbage out. By rising early in the morning, it's not sentiment, it's not fear, it's not guilt. It's the process for tuning the consciousness so we can pick up the signal of descending knowledge. It's completely logical. So another thing is we have to be willing to be molded. Krishna says, Tesham satadyuktanam bhajitam pritipurvakam or suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatvam shantam richate. That Krishna will do his job. And we have to recognize that why do bad things happen to devotees? I mean, that's a whole class we can talk about. But if I go to the hospital, pretty nurses, I get to pick my own menu, I got a motorized bed, free cable, fantastic. And they say, okay, Swami, time for your spinal tap. What? Wait, I didn't sign up for that. But is the purpose of the hospital to make me comfortable? Is that a success? I die of the disease, but I was so-called comfortable? Will we praise that hospital? Is that a good hospital? Hey, everybody died when they went to the hospital. They were happy going, stuffed them full of heroin. No. So, what is Krishna's business? You know, Michelangelo, when he used to carve, there was a big block. This is for La Pieta, you know, when Virgin Mary's holding the body of Christ. It's beautiful carving. Looks lifelike. So Michelangelo was looking at the block and looking at the block. And usually, you know, they start sketching. They sketch on it. He didn't sketch. His friend asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "I can see it. I see it inside. I just have to figure out what to remove." In other words, he saw the whole thing inside that block, and for him it was just chip this off, chip that off, and there it is. So Krishna's in our heart, and Krishna's working on our heart. That's what's happening. He's doing his job, cleansing the heart, you know, calm, crowed, all the different things that are, all the anṛtas in the heart. We have to be willing to be molded. We have to accept that's what's happening. I saw a Christian, you know, they put that, and Prabhupada liked it. If you go to the LA temple, New Dwarka, there's a big signboard. This is Prabhupada's confidence in the value of Krishna consciousness. 1970s. If you went out dressed like this, they thought you were Mars and wondering where the mother pod was, right? Prabhupada had them put on that signboard, Hare Krishna community, come and join. Prabhupada was completely convinced, you know? So, we have to have that confidence that we have to want to purify our heart by practicing of sadhana. We have to let Krishna mold us. We have to have confidence that Krishna is doing his job. And I think I have time for one more thing. Let's see what we got here, if I got something else. Oh, just for fun. We carry so much baggage. I mean, a blind man thinks everyone else is blind, so I'm speaking to myself, you know. We have all kinds of emotional issues and this and that, and we're all hung up about it. And, you know, Niranjana Swami, another one of my heroes. Excuse me. I was up here on the veranda some years ago. A devotee came up and he was agitated and he went off on everything. It was a perfect storm. Went off on the lazy householders. Went out on the arrogant sannyasis. Went off on the brahmacharis. Went off on everybody. Went off on temple presidents. Went off on the GBC. And I was thinking the only element of ISKCON this man has not criticized. He was going off to complaining to Niranjana Swami. I was ready to strangle him because I'm not, but I thought, well, I can't do it. I'm next to a saintly person. So I was trying to control my senses. And Niranjana Swami was just hearing him out, just letting him run out of steam, you know? And I was thinking the only group this man is not offended is the cows. And then he said, and that is cow. I thought, it's a perfect trifecta. This man has managed to offend every element of the Hare Krishna movement. So when he ran out of steam, which they eventually will do, Niranjana Swami said, and just think about it for a moment. I'm sorry. He said, I can understand that you are expert at finding fault. I think if you study your own heart, you will find sufficient subject matter. Is that cool? I just thought, you know, and Voltaire says, tend to your own garden. You're so worried about everybody else. You know, what about my heart? What am I doing in my heart? And whatever's, it's a long story. We don't have much time. I'm thinking of secretly having my assistant turn the clock and give me another 5 minutes. Prabhupada was in, it's a long story, I don't have time to tell it, but there was a professor who shouted at Srila Prabhupada, screaming and yelling. Brahmananda, I think you better leave now, took the guy and gave him the heave-ho, you know, threw him right out the door. But the man had sworn at Srila Prabhupada, 4-letter words. And Prabhupada, he was only trying to give us Krishna consciousness. He wanted to be in Vrindavan. Prabhupada said this world is in San Francisco, Prabhupada's giving the class and somebody's screaming and yelling at him, stands up screaming and yelling. You hear Prabhupada say, it is the darkest of darkness. So that's Srila Prabhupada. And this man is swearing at him. So all the devotees, what will happen to him? Will he be born in Calcutta with no arms and no legs, playing a harmonica? What's going to happen to this guy? Is he going to be wandering in the Himalayas like Aswatthama with no shelter? And everybody offered, he'll have to drink boiling ghee. All the devotees offered their prescription, what will be the only prayaschita to free him from this. It finally came to Prabhupada. You know what Prabhupada said? Well, we could forgive him. Nobody had thought of that. Prabhupada said, I've offended him in his previous life. Now he's come to take his revenge. That's how Prabhupada saw it. So, we shouldn't let people abuse us and all that. Don't get hung up on the details. But that principle of learning to forgive and concentrating on our own spiritual advancement. So these are some qualifications, just as Brahma had to perform tapasya to have the revelatory knowledge of the Absolute revealed, we have to do the same thing. And it's the only thing that makes sense. It is seamless, consistent logic. The finite wants to understand the infinite. It has to become qualified by surrender. And purity. It's the only thing that makes sense. Now, one last thing and I'll end. We tend to fight with each other. Maybe you don't. I don't know what. I'm a GBC. Anyway. That's part of my job. And why I'm retiring in 4 years. And why I've got gray hairs. Everyone's got a name on it. I can tell you where I got it. So, what was I going to... So we tend to fight. And Prabhupada said, our movement cannot be defeated from the outside. It can't be. He said it can only be defeated from the inside. Now suppose your house is on fire, and we know the world is on fire with samsara. We know the world's on fire. Even you just accept the basic principle of entropy, everything's rubbing against each other, the law of friction, everything is on fire in this world. Buddha says, my tongue is on fire, my eyes are on, everything's on fire in this world, any way you want to look at it. So my house is on fire, and the fire brigade pulls up, the fire truck. And they start arguing. Well, we should use the hose. No, well, we should go in with the axe. Well, we should put up the ladder. And they're all arguing each other, and my house burns down. Is that a successful fire department? Prabhupada said, Prabhupada was walking, well, I'll say it several different ways. And 3 Prabhupada stories will finish. Prabhupada, they asked him, why did you come to America? New York City, New York Times, why did you come to America? And this is Prabhupada's humility and sense of humor. Prabhupada said, well, some of my godbrothers went to England and they failed. Another one of my godbrothers went to Sweden and failed. Another went to Germany and failed. I thought, well, if I'm going to fail, let me fail in a new place. But Prabhupada had a strategy. Prabhupada had Guru Nishta. He had deep faith. He had faith in the power of the holy name and faith in the order of his spiritual master in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had unflinching, unbending confidence. Prabhupada said, you can hear it on the tape, the Victoria Memorial in Calcutta that was built for Queen. I don't know how tall it is. You can Google it. It's like 18 stories. It's a big building. And Prabhupada is a young boy. I don't know the age, but I'm picturing 8 to 12, something like that. Prabhupada climbed to the top of the thing on the bamboo scaffolding. The thing's creaking and blowing in the wind, and Prabhupada, climbed all the way to the top. He wanted to see what the view from the top was. So you can hear on the tape, the devotees say, well, Prabhupada, you must have been very brave. And Prabhupada says, and I am still brave. Prabhupada said, how have I come to your country all alone? So ISKCON is, they asked Prabhupada, why did Mahaprabhu only preach in India and not the rest of the world? And I was there, I heard it, I don't care what you say. Prabhupada said why did Mahaprabhu only preach in South India? Prabhupada said he was saving the rest of the world for ISKCON. But we have to do it. We have to actually become pure-hearted. We don't have time to fight with each other. The message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the last best hope. So we need to tolerate each other. We need to learn to forgive. We need to practice serious sadhana. We have to purify our heart, and we will be empowered to save the world. This movement is not meant for small things. Okay, I'll end there. Thank you, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. We're over time, so I'm not going to take any questions, and we're also up against prasadam. I know the priorities in this movement. So, thank you.